Good morning, everyone. Dan Bates, President and CEO, Greater Hamilton Chamber of Commerce, and we're glad you could join us this morning for coffee and conversation. We'll go over the protocol a little bit. We are on a Zoom meeting, so I'm sure our speaker will not mind if you ask questions during her presentation. If you are on Facebook Live, which tends to be our larger audience, type your question in, and Laura will get that answered for you by the speaker. So today, we're excited to have Cindy Keitel. Cindy's going to be talking about a tune-up for your business. Cindy Keitel, business coaching, and I'm sure we're in for a very educational and informative lesson this morning. So with that being said, we're going to go around and get everybody introduced. So who's doing introductions today?
I am.
Okay,
Welcome,
Tiffany, you want to go
everybody.
ahead and get started?
Welcome, everybody. I'm just gonna go around my screen, introduce yourself and what company you're with, and we'll start with Gina.
Hey, my mic's on, I think. Yes, Gina here. I represent Land of Illusion, and we are getting ready to open up Aqua Adventures. In fact, they just told me yesterday, next time I swing by Marflex, they've got a stack of tickets for me to start handing out at chamber meetings. So hopefully we can get you out there to Aqua Adventures, and we host corporate events, birthday parties, all that good stuff. If you would happen to be interested, or if you need help with social media, let me know. I'm Gina with Land of Illusion.
I want to come and race Jason on a Aquapalooza
Oh, I will have
adventure.
the stopwatch.
All right, Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Deaton with LD Images Photography. We're a home-based studio in Fairfield Township, Ohio, and we specialize in family portraits and high school senior portraits and business branding and business portraits of all kinds, whether it be just a single person or a whole company. We are kind of in the midst right now of high school graduation and college graduation. So if you know someone who either needs photography for that, whether it be cap and gown or just getting a portrait to remember this special time in their life, just give us a call.
Thanks for being here. Deanna.
Morning, I'm Deanna Cosina with ADG Painting Services. We are a residential and commercial painting service, and we also do epoxy flooring and industrial safety lines. And we also have a cleaning company that is commercial, and I'm starting to break into some residential on that. Um, but we're primarily commercial on the cleaning. So thank you.
Great, thanks, Christy.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Christy Wesselman of Listening Heart, and I provide coaching and direction to people who are wanting to explore their spiritual journey. It's good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Angie. All right. Trish.
Hello. Sorry. I'm Trish Archie with Kitchen Oasis, a commercial shared kitchen space in Hamilton, Ohio, where food entrepreneurs can come into my commercial shared kitchen and prep and cook their food in a health compliant and safe kitchen space. And also Trisha's Treats, where I specialize in cheesecakes. Life is Sweet with Trisha's Treats.
And we can attest the chamber staff has tried Trisha's cheesecake and it's phenomenal.
Thank
Let's
you.
see. Laura.
Morning, everyone. Laura Merrill with the Greater Hamilton Chamber.
Jason.
Hi, everyone. Jason Michael Miller with the Greater Hamilton Chamber of Commerce, Director of Membership and Engagement.
Right. Nancy.
Good morning. I'm Nancy O'Neill. I'm Director of Events and Leadership Hamilton with the Greater Hamilton Chamber.
And I'm Tiffany Grubb. I forgot to mention that, Director of Marketing, Greater Hamilton Chamber. And I believe we're ready for Cindy to take it away.
Great. Thank you, Tiffany. Hi, everybody. I'm going to be presenting a number of ideas for you today, whether you are a business leader or a future business owner or perhaps a part of management. This presentation will apply to you, and I think you'll relate to many of the things that I'm going to share with you. I'll pull up my slides and we'll get going. Okay, so there we go. There was my car about 2 weeks ago. Yes, I did have a tire problem, flat tire, and I had AAA waiting to come get me. I was in Monroe after hitting a pothole on the road. This is something we all encounter, unexpected bumps in the road. We're cruising along. We think in our business we're doing great, or maybe we are bumping along and we're just not sure we're going anywhere, significant. So this presentation is designed to have you look at your own business and take a look at the warning lights. What are the things that happen? When my tire went flat, my warning lights went on, and I had a 0 in my right tire, which was a little disconcerting. So I pulled over, and it turned out there was not only a nail in it, but I had hit a pothole. So there were, I got a 2 for 1. But when you're in your business and you're cruising along or just bumping along with it, sometimes you have to think about the warning lights that come on. Did you even notice them? Did you say, oh, that's just a bad month, and go on from there? You have to think in your business about the warning lights maybe being something more significant or a trend, and just keep an eye on them. So these are 4 different things that I pulled out that are typical warning lights in a business. You might have declining sales. You might have customers starting to complain. They're having issues with service or wait time. Or probably most importantly, you're just not enthused about your business anymore. It just seems hard, you're dreading it, and you don't really want to be there anymore. That's a really key indicator, a warning light that your business is not going to go well. And then the 4th one is that your industry is changing and you've done nothing about it. And I'd also like to ask all of you, because you have probably experienced these and more. Are there any other warning lights that you've encountered or seen before? What do you think is another issue?
What about if you have a partner in business and they're not really pulling their weight?
That could be a huge warning light. Huge. It's a good one, Gina. Anybody else?
I would say, when there's constant miscommunication, I think that's a big warning light too.
Yes, because it's going to lead to maybe the declining sales and some of these others. It might even be an early indicator, like an early warning light. Yeah. Any others you want to put out there for the group?
I would also say teams not honoring boundaries amongst each other. I think boundaries are huge.
Yeah, you could spend more time with boundary issues than you do with the customers. It does tend to take up time. Great. Those are great examples. And the problem is we don't always address problems before they escalate. And we just let them fester and things get worse and worse. And what the problem is, it leads to things like this. The failure rate of small businesses for any year, going even up to year 10, is about like 10 to 20% a year. These two, the reason there's different numbers is I was getting different numbers from different places, but the US Bureau of Statistics says about 20% of businesses fail their first year. And then it goes up to about 30 year 2 and 40 to 50 somewhere in year 3. And then around 50 or more year 5 and even year 10. You think you would have actually, come out of some of the problems by year 10. But trends and things like that can just knock you flat if you haven't really prepared for them and looked at them and, figured out what you're going to do with your business. And this is why businesses fail. It's not just because there's hard competition. It's because you run out of money. That's the major reason. This is also from the Bureau of Statistics that 47% of the businesses close because of cash flow problems. It could also be originally you just didn't have a market need and you started a business. I've seen that with some people I've coached, that it was a great idea, but they didn't test it to see if it's saleable. And it really wasn't. There was a very small market niche, if any. Then this gets into a lot of the things that are both people and operations. Operational challenges, 8%. Pricing issues, this can lead to your cash flow problem, which I'll talk about a little later. And also, you could just be out competitioned. I noticed, I'll give you one quick example. I noticed a Wawa opened, which I didn't even know what that was. A Wawa opened, and I'm not sure if it was Westchester or something in the area. You still can't get in there as a waiting line. So what's happening to all the other places right around there right now? They're getting beaten by Wawa with their coming in as with name recognition, and people are excited about it. So you have to adjust when your competition comes in. The next slide really represents, did you ever start in the first place with a roadmap? Just like when you're going in your car somewhere, you need a plan. You need to figure out where you're going, how you're going to get there. And just like GPS, there could be something on the road and then you got to change directions. You got to go around, you got to change. So anything in a business plan has to be adjustable and changeable. And I asked a group the other day of small business owners. I was just on a call with a bunch of people and said, hey, how many of you started with a business plan? And nobody raised their hand. 33% of small businesses have a formal business plan. And by formal, it could even be just a couple of pages with it listed out. And the reason to do that is, again, if you don't know where you're going, you're probably not going to get there. You really just can't leave it to chance. This, if you don't have a business plan now, you can go to score.org and look up their business plan, and you can download it, or just go on to Google search and Google search for like a 2-page business plan. The reason to do that is it's going to tell you things like what's the reason you're in business? What are you going to be pricing things at? What's your pricing strategy? What's your marketing strategy? It's going to ask you a lot of questions. If you haven't thought these out in advance, are going to leave you scrambling if you're opening a business. And this plan is adjustable, and don't just put it in the drawer, keep revising it. The other piece of this, and I'm going to call it lessons now, is do regular checkups. Now, I don't know if my tire would have survived the pothole on the road. It was a deep pothole, by the way. But maybe if I had noticed the nail in the tire before that, it might have helped. So first lesson is do regular checkups. And you might be asking, what in the heck do I check? Okay, so anybody here have ideas what you could check to figure out if your business is going in the right direction?
I mean, you could do market research to see if other people are, charging the same still for what, maybe if it's a product or a service.
Yes. What else?
Your budget for the cash flow for later that month and tracking that.
Yep. Those are two good ones. And I'll list for you a few that I highly recommend. So it's like a gauge. Come with your own dashboard gauge for what works for your business. It's totally different. Deanna's gauge might be totally different than Gina's gauge. So what you're going to track possibly are number of leads, your customers, number of customers, and number of sales. I have one client that they're tracking those things, but they don't know by product line which is the most profitable and where the leads are coming from exactly. They're confused. They haven't gone back far enough in the process to figure that out. And that can make a big difference in growing your business if you haven't figured these things out yet. Top products and services. Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, Cindy. Dan just commented, Small Business Development Center is a partner with the Chamber for excellent and free business plans, and we can do a referral for you to get you started. And Lisa commented that it's all about the numbers.
Yes, it is. Okay, thank you both for that. Those are great comments. Then back to, Deanna mentioned expenses, customer acquisition costs. What if it costs you more to get a new customer than it does to produce the service? What are you going to do? I mean, that's a terrible situation. And what if your profit margins are so darn low, like 1%? And by the way, do you even know your profit margin? That I'm going to go into that too. But what if they're so low that if you hit a bad month, you may not be able to pay your rent? There are things like that can happen. So you really have to think about all these things along the way. Someone said to me the other day, why would you ever want to be a small business owner? After we were talking about all these problems. And several people chimed in. You know what they said? They said, because there's freedom. It's your own business. I don't want to work for anybody else. This is what I want to do. And this business is my passion and my baby. So there's pros and cons to being a business owner. But I think when people go all in into a small business, they go all in. Now, the only thing is you don't want to mislead yourself into only looking at one measurement. You want to look at a number of things, and especially your profitability. So I'm going to take you through of how to do gross profit calculations real quick. And if you're not math oriented, don't worry, it's easy and your eyes won't glaze over. But this is just a fake spreadsheet from business ABC, company ABC. So at the top here, total revenue, we just grouped a bunch of things together and just put it on one line there. So your total revenue is the formula minus your cost of goods sold, which is the second one. And that's just simply all the things that go into producing that product or service that are not overhead. And that gives you your gross profit. Okay, so you're looking for a percent of that. So you just divide into it. And if you had an 83% profit margin, you're probably like a consultant, because that means you probably don't have a whole lot of services, products and materials and labor that go into creating a gross profit. And I'll get to that in a second, why that's important. So net profit, the one little guy down here, 45,000, this is your total revenue again, minus your total expenses, and that's everything here equals your net profit, which is what you come away with. So that's percentage is 30%, just divide one or the other. And that's how much of your revenue turns into profit. Now, what's neat about this is that means you save, I can't really say save, that means you keep 30 cents out of every dollar. That's what it means. So I'm going to go back one slide and show you I'm trying to go back one. There we go. Am I on net? There's gross. Okay. So this means you keep 83 cents out of every dollar when you're looking at it, but you haven't taken out things like payroll, utilities, rent, depreciation, taxes, things like that. You haven't done that yet. So if you're a nonprofit, you don't have this type of P&L statement. You have a different statement altogether. You're just taking out all your expenses and your revenues, probably from things like grants or donations, things like that. So it's a little different for nonprofits, just to let you know. So back to net again, this means, again, you're keeping 30 cents out of every dollar. Okay, and then you might say, well, what about my business? How do I figure that out? Well, you just use the same formula and you go in and you can find this online, what your industry average is. And I use it in my software too. I just pull it up and tell you if you're either above average, below average, or right on average. If you're really, really below average, either your model is totally different or you're really inefficient. And that's something to really look at. So that's one of the things I do use as my metric. So retail, if you want to open a retail store, let's say, your net profit margin typically is only 2 to 6%. It can be really small, and that could go for restaurants and others. That's why so many go out of business. It's just really hard when you have that thin of a profit margin and you have products and food and things like that can spoil. That's not the same as if you had a service where nothing's spoiling and you don't have excess inventory. So you have the double problem when you've got retail and food services, that you have to really manage your business well. Construction industry, because there's a whole lot of materials used, this tends to be their gross profit, and net can come way down as well. And then look at agriculture. That's another one we always hear about, the little farmer, how they have trouble because they're at the whim of things like rain and sun and different things like that. The weather really affects them. So they're not a high margin business. Healthcare can be a little bit better, healthcare services, and things like software development, things like that are much higher net profit. So some people literally go into a small business that has a higher net profit for them. So that's something to think about if you're a business owner or having a plan for how you're going to get a better net. So this is the ugly truth for businesses, and this is a true story. So another coach I work with, when he owned a business years ago, before he went into coaching, he hit his $1 million mark for his business the same month that he was foreclosed on his property. He was making $1 million, but the numbers didn't add up and he couldn't pay for his personal items and his, the home and so forth. So he lost his home. He had to start all over again. And now he's coaching because now he understands the principle and he can really help people. So anyway, this is a pretty sad statement, but I wanted to show you that because it's pretty impressive when you think about it. Then there's another lesson. Do you have systems, technology, and processes in place to ensure your engine runs smoothly? So that can be things like, and I've just got a bunch of examples here. Down at the bottom here, it's now kind of expected if you're in the trades that you're going to be able to tell people approximately when you're going to arrive. Maybe 20 years ago, you just waited all day, but people don't want to put up with that anymore. And with the fast real-time delivery services, we've all been trained to expect people and things to come within a pretty solid window of time. Maybe it's only 2 hours, 3 hours. Well, now there's these tracking systems that can tell you where when things are arriving. Well, what about the local handyman? Do you ever, would you prefer to work with a handyman service that could tell you they're going to be there in 10 minutes or one that has no idea? So customers are using that as part of how they're deciding on companies, and they're obviously going in and Google and giving them the reviews to reflect that too. So these other things in the middle here reflect all the different technologies now out there with, like, some are using Salesforce for their outreach. You've got Google and all types of, Dropboxes and different tools now that people use in the office. Airtable is really common that people use to manage their business. And although this is an org chart, the reason I'm showing this is I love working with sticky notes. So I'm going to pull my sticky notes out. They're right here in my desk. I have 2 sets of sticky notes, and this is a little trick that I do with some clients. Let's just say you're trying to figure out, is my operation from the beginning of the time a customer contacts me to the delivery of the service, if you write down every step that happens in between, you may be going back and forth and have the most inefficient process. So I write out a sticky note for them for every single step, and we do it while it's happening real time. So if, let's say, an inbound call comes in, well, okay, you got to log the inbound call comes in. Do they get anything back to confirm? Okay, so there's another touch point with a customer. So you just keep filling these out, whether it's a human or an email contact. And then you look at it and you say, how many things had to happen to go from A to Z? And you may realize, I'm doing too many steps. This is silly. Why is this going back and forth between departments or people? And why am I waiting for someone's approval when it really doesn't matter and it delays everything? These are really great tools to sit down with a team and everybody discuss how efficient a particular process is and could it be better. And the sticky notes can be moved around and you can pull them off. That's why I use sticky notes. It's just touchable and so forth. Now, I want to ask all of you, what tools do you use? What tools do you use for workflows, technology that helps you?
I just got an iPad. My fiance bought me an iPad because my girlfriend does a lot of work where she writes, because I like to write just like on the sticky notes, but I want it to all be organized and I want AI to help me. Because the AI can like tell you, hey, today at noon, you don't have anything going on according to your schedule. You can work on this. And I downloaded and paid for the like unlimited service of GoodNotes, which I guess, from my research, it's supposed to be a great way to take notes. So I'll keep you posted.
Great. They even have sticky apps too, like sticky note apps that they look like this. Because some people don't want to give up, like me. They don't want to give up their sticky notes.
I love them too. It's same. And then there's a satisfaction when you pull it off and throw it away because you finished.
Absolutely. There's something tactile that. Yeah. And now, and all of you, I would say with the rise of AI and all the other tools out there, there's so many things that you probably don't even know exist that can make you more efficient, can take the manual away from what you're doing and automate it. A lot of people that I'm finding, and this is even true of accounting companies, a lot of small companies do their payroll on Excel spreadsheets. and it takes them double the time, compared to maybe a payroll service or even outsourcing it. And more and more people are doing cost analysis to see how much would it cost me to actually do payroll myself versus, and my time, how much time does it take versus farming it out or using some kind of automation. And usually people find a cost savings by not doing it themselves, because then people fiddle with it. They look at something, they get involved with a spreadsheet, and time a waste. So you have to also worry about, are you also kind of deep into technology in a way that's not the best use of your time? So those are two things. If you're a business owner, you can't afford to be doing everything. So to be doing payroll, unless you absolutely can't afford any other way, we're saying try to, as a coach, delegate as much as you can, and also to use any tools possible. And sometimes you can just use AI to research what are the best tools for, XXX. So these are kinds of things that usually small businesses, they know about it, but they don't do it. So I just force them to look at the tools and look at their systems and processes and hold them accountable to ensure that the most efficient they can be. And in this day and age, usually they're finding they're behind. They're not, ahead of the curve. And a lot of your competitors are going to be using these tools, and they're going to be quicker and faster and have better service if they are using them. Usually, not always. Sometimes there's glitches, but usually. And then this leads us into another one. And everybody thinks the answer to growing your business is marketing. And the problem is that businesses are run on money and cash flow. And so if you put too much money into marketing without a good return on investment, it's not a wise choice for your business. You've got to find your market position and look at this differently. So I call it market position equals alignment. So like if we thought about Keds tennis shoes and the Nike shoes. So if you look up here in this little grid, this is a competitive analysis. I love these grids because they're so simple. It's high price, low price, lower quality, higher quality. And where would Keds fit in this? Anybody want to tell me which quadrant, or where do you think they would be? You can name the letter, approximately where the letter is, or can you see that well enough? People on the phone are going to have trouble, but maybe the rest of you can.
Probably B or D.
I would say low quality.
Somewhere probably in here, maybe. Depends on. I don't wear Keds, so I don't know how high quality they are. Can anybody comment on that?
They're not the highest quality. I mean, they're all right. They're a brand name, so people know them, but I wouldn't say that they're like, oh my gosh, those are the shoes I want to buy for comfort and, quality.
Okay.
Well, cute.
So they are making a comeback.
So maybe it's trendy. Okay. So maybe in terms of quality, they're down here. And in price, are they low price or high price?
They're not cheap. I try to buy them used.
Okay. So they could come up here, maybe this little higher spot. So it might be in there. And that's kind of what you'd figure out if you were a Keds manufacturer. And then Nike. Okay. So let's say you go into a Nike store. They do have all price points, but let's take their top shoe. Where would you place that?
In the highest. One of the
Somewhere,
highest.
yeah, somewhere. It's probably going to be high price, and the quality's still good.
Depends on if you like Nike or not. If you're a fan of the brand, you love it.
Okay, so maybe, because not everybody loves it, so maybe it's in here somewhere. It's not exactly the highest quality. So the whole point is you get your team together and you look at all of your competitors in your space, and you say, like for Gina, let's say it's Land of Illusion. You look at all your competitors in the region that are in, entertainment sources, and you find out what's the least expensive, what's the highest quality, what gets the best service ratings, and you kind of plot everybody out, and then you talk about it, and that's going to help you with all these insights into how to market your business. And it may be you're marketing wrong, and I'm not talking about Land of Illusion, but it just in general, it may mean you're marketing incorrectly if you don't know the competitor's weaknesses, or if you're trying to sell on cheap, like, oh, we're the lowest price, and your customer really wants Nike. So there's all these things to think about when you're into starting to do marketing. So this is something I spend hours and hours with clients on. No, you're not market dominating position. So let's use the Chamber of Commerce for an example. What makes your chamber unique and different than all the other chambers in the area? Any thoughts on that?
I think they kind of feel like family in a way that when you get to know people, you build that relationship. It's just very relational compared to some other chambers.
Yes, I think so too. And any other thoughts from
I don't have any experience with chambers, so I don't really know. But these are my first impressions of a brand new member of this chamber, is that I do think they are committed to helping your business succeed and grow. From what I've heard, obviously I haven't been in very long, but it does feel like they are committed to your success and helping you grow your business in whatever way that looks for you. They're wanting to partner with you in that role.
Right. Right. So that if that was a dominating position for them, they'd want to capitalize on how they outreach to people and how they present themselves on that.
And
So
they do that. I agree with that. That they really get that. This chamber gets that completely. So
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
go to this chamber, Franklin, Springboro, and Dayton, and I feel like Hamilton is just super organized and always reaching out and trying to go, oh, I know so and so that I think you would make a good match with. They might be interested in whatever. I don't really get that with other chambers as much.
Yeah, that's good feedback for them today. And that their grid may not be price and quality. Their grid might be more about relational things because that's the purpose of a chamber, to connect people and all. So let's talk about Canva. How many of you use Canva? Just say, yeah, if you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
I
good.
do.
Yeah, a lot of people use Canva. So I use them just because I thought they have a really good value proposition and they stand out like this little red peg here. I guess it's a person, this little red thing, designed to be a person that's standing out from others. So does anybody use any more intensive programs beyond Canva? Canva, we'll talk about Canva in a second, but does anybody use, Lisa, what do you use?
Well, I use Photoshop, obviously, for my photography, but it also does a lot of design work too for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
have the creative Adobe suite as well. So I kind of go back and forth between that and Canva, depending on what their strengths are.
Okay, so who do you think Canva is designed for?
People that don't want to pay a lot for an Adobe subscription, but they also don't need the robustness of Adobe because there's so much to it. So it's going to be, a business owner that isn't editing pictures all day long, like Lisa is.
Yeah, so let's go back to here. And where do you think Adobe would be on this?
High quality, whatever that quadrant is. I can't see the numbers.
High quality is up here and it's higher price, right? So it might be
it's not that expensive, to be honest with you, but it depends on, yeah.
Okay, so it might be somewhere up here.
$50 a month.
Okay,
I don't pay that much.
Well, I pay $30 a month, but there's different ways to do that. But like a regular person just signing up, it's $50. So I think that's pretty pricey.
Yeah.
I think the learning curve is, to me, the most, like, Canva is really designed for people who just want to go in and it's very simple and easy. It's drag and drop. It's for someone who doesn't really need all the bells and whistles, and they just need something clean and professional looking, and that will do it for you. And you can do it for free if you want, or you can pay if you want.
Then this could also be written for adaption rate. How easy is it to use? There could be a quadrant for that when you're analyzing things. So they say a perfect fit for everyone. So they're trying to get everyone to try it. And then notice they call out just in the design look, the word design, and they use it with sort of a, what's that called? The
Gradient.
Gradient, yeah. Gradient design there. So what will you design today? So it starts with a question and it gets you thinking, oh my gosh, I could be designing something. And that's sort of their deal. And then they're showing examples and so on. So that's we call it value proposition. And so they understand their market, they know their market, and look how far they've grown from just a few years ago. So they've done an amazing job. That's a good example of adding value and at a cost. So they're doing volume basically because their cost is lower. How many of you have the free version versus pro? I have pro. What do you guys have?
Free. I have free.
I have pro.
Okay, so it's a mix. Jason, what do you have?
I love using the Pro. I find so much value in all the extra bells and whistles that come with it. We did a workshop or a kind of a coffee conversation on Canva, and it's really stepping up their game and kind of giving Adobe a run for some money, not for photo editing, but for design and layout.
Right. So what has Canva done? It has not rested on its laurels. It looked at the market, it made changes, and it decided to do it still in a cost-effective way. It didn't try to compete necessarily with Adobe. It's still maintaining its lower price, but it's giving you this increased functionality because, costs are coming down for technology.
And I don't think there's any real free option within Adobe that can do what the Canva free option can do.
Yeah.
So they're definitely getting that market.
The students at the university I used to work at, they were the ones that taught me about Canva. They were all using it, and their instructors were encouraging them to use it. So what I was finding is somehow Canva was making it into the college market, who were, who were the future marketeers, within a few years in companies, and it kind of grew with that generation. So that was what I saw, that it was working on a target market and growing with it. So anyway, so interesting stuff. It just tells you how you need to adapt and change and come up with new things. If you stay stagnant, it's not going to work in many, many businesses. So the other thing I want to talk about is how not to go out of business. Do you all want to hear that? Okay. All right. This is from the 1990s. And this was from, believe it or not, this was from a professional photography, journal. Oops, I hit something and then it moved. And this gentleman, I don't know if you guys have heard of him, Donald Burrell Color Inc., Crown Point, Indiana. This guy had a photography business many years ago. It still exists, by the way, but this was back when we didn't have digital stuff, and none of this IT stuff was around. So he was looking at how not to get killed by people trying to underprice themselves in the market and grab a lot of business. And he also had a really good handle on money. And he said, don't just discount your business. You're going to race to the bottom and all go out of business. You sell on value. What was that?
I said, yes, preach.
Yes. So sell on value and not on lower price. And then take a look at the bottom. So this was from this little cutout. And my friend of mine that ran a photography studio it was for New York. A lot of the photographers in New York used him, and he did high-end stuff. But he was finding that there was so much pressure by other competitors that they usually ended up coming back to him because the lower price people couldn't do the quality work that they wanted. So he kept his prices and just sort of soldiered through it. But this was the warning shot by Donald Burrell. And it was, if you reduced your prices, now this depends on a number of factors. This is a profit of 25% on the selling price. But if you reduce 3% your selling price, you have to sell 13.6 percent more items. So it's not just, I just lose a little bit of money. No, you lose a lot of money. And go down to the bottom there, 20. If you reduce your stuff 20%, you may have to sell 400% more. I mean, think about that. So that's pretty significant. So when you're discounting, you got to really go back and look at what it's going to do to your business. The increase part is the inverse. So if you increase your prices 3%, and this is one of the strategies I talk with clients about, just 3%, if the market can bear it, if you want to increase your prices 3%, you only have to sell 90%. You don't even have to do the same volume to break even. with what you did before. Just raising prices will do that. And if you do 5%, it's only 83% that of what you've sold before. So it goes down to, look at this, if you raise your prices 20%, now this isn't saying if you had a price increase in food, let's say, and then you raise it because of that. We're talking about just because you have a pricing strategy that every year you raise your prices just a little bit, let's say, this 20% would mean you only need half the business. So think about that, but you have to also, and when we go back to the market dominating position, you also have to show that you're of value, that people are willing to spend that money with you, that you're a different kind of company than, the one down the street. So any questions on this or comments?
Oh, I have lots of comments. You're all, but probably not. It's true. It's very true. And I would say it's very interesting that you used a photographer as your example, because the market right now is saturated with people who are racing to the bottom to be the lowest price. And I'll give you all this for not very much. And it is very interesting and somewhat sometimes can be discouraging for a photographer, because it's like, that's not me. And I'm not going to do that. And it can be difficult to market to people when they don't understand. I, I'm sorry, but this is a business for me. This is not my hobby. This is not, you know what I mean? And they don't understand that a living wage requires that you charge prices that are not race to the bottom kind of prices. You know what I mean? So it's interesting that you chose that, because it's so true. Absolutely true.
Yeah, and that's where
Most photographers, this industry does not want to know their numbers. They don't want to understand profitability. And so it is just all about, but if I have more clients, and it's like you're killing yourself with more clients at $200 a pop is what you're doing. You won't be in this business in 5 years because you'll be so burnt out. And it's just interesting, and I appreciate the reference, because I think it is very, very true in this industry for sure.
I would agree, Cindy. And if I could just add to the customer that always goes towards the lowest price, and there is a customer that's what they're always looking for, is a customer you don't want anyway, because there's zero loyalty. And as soon as somebody finds another lower price, they'll go to them. So, yeah, I agree with Lisa. You work yourself to death for, when I was in the consulting business, I always told people never caught into that trap. Because not only will it put you out of business, but it's also a customer you don't want. And I also find that when I was a consultant, the people who wanted the lowest price also expected the most service. So, it's like, I want it cheap and I want you to bend over backwards for me. And I just refused to take those people on. It was like, and even now with the chamber, we have to look at that. I think that, we do talk a lot about value here at the chamber. And there are chambers that have a lower entry point than we do. And I think you get what you pay for in that respect. Or they get it in other ways by nickel and diming their members to death with other things. So I totally agree with that price thing.
Great, good comments. Anybody else? Great, well, thank you. We will go on to the next item. So, Profit Accelerator. This is my Profit Accelerator. You are welcome. And I'm trying to think here if I can do this. Oh, I can't. No, I can't do that. Shoot, because I've done the link. Anyway, you might want to write that down. That is my direct link to the Profit Accelerator. It's on my website, but you have to register on my website to get to it. And I'm just giving you the direct link. So it's keitelbusinesscoaching.com/simulator. And what you're going to do, if you have a business or you just want to play around with it and put some numbers in, put in what you want, you hope your annual revenue would be, or what it really is, and list your approximates for your net and gross margin, which you learned a little bit ago. And if you have no idea, just put 50% and 10. That would work. And then US currency, because this is good globally. And then you can move this little lever. I'm going to take you to it in a second. This little lever moves and it'll take you to like 1%, 2%, 3%. And these numbers will change to show you if you improve, and this is about doubling your profits, what kind of increase you need. So if you're in a business where you say, you know what, I'd really love to double my business, what's it going to take? This is what you play with. And then you see, oh my God, I can't do that in 1 year. It's going to take me 2 years or 3 years based on this. And also you go through, there's 12 areas here. And there's also, if you go down lower in my simulator, there's 40 of these. You can go into more detailed ones, but the original one's on the top, and I'll go to that right now. No. Okay, so that doesn't work. I don't know why that's not working. It worked at home.
Dan
Okay.
just put it in the chat, so it's there for
Okay.
people.
Okay, super. At any rate, so you can move these individually. Like this could be 0. Maybe you're very efficient and you know it. Like, for example, I was working with a lean manufacturing trainer. I just didn't even expect to find anything that they would have in cost reduction. Maybe they do, but I just felt like that was almost an insult to talk with them about that. So we went into their biggest problem, which was market dominating position, and talked about if they could get a market dominating position, you know, what kind of improvement could they get in their marketing and in their leads and so on. So we went through each of these and talked through them, and then it comes up with numbers up here. And this will give you a report, so you can actually have a report sent to you with whatever you're playing around with. And that's just free for me. And you can go create your own plan with it if you want. So this is the kinds of tools that coaches can provide you. And I do it for free because a lot of people don't have the money for a coach and they just want to figure things out on their own. So that's a little tool for you. Are there any questions or comments on this?
Cindy, I was gonna send your presentation that you sent to me in the thank you email.
Okay, that's great. Then you will get a chance to see this. Okay, so we'll go on to the next one. There's another lesson here, and this is that I feel like sometimes in a small business, it's all work and no fun. And we need to have fun. We need to retool. We need to celebrate our achievements. And I've worked with a few clients that they're so depressed with the constant fight every day to get a new client to do this. They forget to have fun and celebrate things. So I've worked with them on, okay, let's retool your skill set. Everybody needs training all the time. So what is it that you need to learn? Because often they don't take the time to even learn Canva or learn, you know, a new software program that'll save them time down the road. Or maybe they're just afraid to even try AI, but it would help them with marketing. So I always encourage people, let's retool where we can, and let's do it as cheaply as possible, if not free. And then, come on, guys, let's celebrate. So literally, you know, groups should go out to lunch. They should high five one another. They should say congratulations after they complete a task. I worked with one group so depressed that rather than coach them that day, we did a how are you feeling today, and got everybody talking about it and got them working together because they were all mad at one another and everybody was blaming one another. And I felt like they couldn't even work. So we got through that. Everybody got back on board. And rather than the blame game, we looked at everybody's workload and said, okay, if you can get through this today, I want you to text everybody when it's done, and we're all going to come high five you. And I did that for everybody because I think sometimes you got to break the cycle when it's just really hard. So pit stops is what I'm talking about. You're getting refueled, just like, you know, in the NASCAR. So recognize successes to boost morale and fuel up, whatever that fuel means, fuel up to go for the long term. And let me go back to that. Is there anything you guys do now that would come under that category?
In business or just in life?
It could be in life, but frequently we're talking about business because it's harder to do that. You forget about doing it in business.
I think as a photographer, I belong to a coaching program, and one of the coaches had said, remember you're a photographer and you like to photograph things. So just go be a photographer and photograph things. So it's always, I have to remind myself, like, it doesn't have to be a client in order for me to enjoy it, to go do it. I can take my camera out and go photograph all kinds of things. I can just use my iPhone if I want to, but the just the art of it and just the process of it is enjoyable for me and is fun for me. And don't make it so stressful that it has to be the only time I pick up my camera is when I have a client in front of me, you know, at least for me. I have to have fun doing it too.
Yeah, that's great observation on that. Anyone else?
I just make sure to always tell my employees that I appreciate them, and then we also do like some lunch meetings that where we celebrate them too. So
Yeah, one of the jobs my son worked at, they were so mean. He was doing some warehouse work. They were so mean to the warehouse workers, and one of the management teams would always get special everything, and the warehouse team would get told, "Don't go in there. They're having a celebration. Don't talk to them. Their management." It was really odd, really odd. And he didn't decided not to stay there because he said he didn't like the climate of the place. He said it was, it just wasn't nice place to work. They didn't feel like they were all equal. They purposely left this, lower and upper
Bad
feeling.
culture.
Yeah, really bad culture. And that's not going to get you where you want to go when when part of your crew doesn't feel part of the business.
Now, I have something to say off of that. My fiance worked for a company called Baker Construction in Monroe, actually, and he was the IT director. And they had a bizarre culture where a big part of their company is out in the field and they're laying concrete, and they're doing jobs. Somewhere, years and years ago, they were like, we want everybody to be equal. But then COVID happened and people started working from home, and they're like, well, that's not fair because the construction workers can't work from home. So they just like kind of fell behind in that mentality of, well, the IT people are still, their output is the same, whether they're working from home or not. So it was kind of a bizarre, but then all of the executives still get to fly in on their private jets. So there was, it's like, oh, but they're not considered the same as the, like the blue collar, white collar, whatever. And so that kind of created animosity too.
Yeah. So sometimes in coaching, I need to tell the owner the problem is them.
Yes. I wish you could coach them.
That they're not creating the environment to keep employees. Losing employees, by the way, is a cash flow problem. It's a cash flow problem. It creates issues.
I think
Anyway,
the other thing too, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, as a solopreneur, I don't have a company to rely on to treat me. So every quarter we take a certain percentage out of our profit account and go do something fun with that. Like whether it's go out to eat or we go to a movie. It doesn't have to be a lot, but it's helping me understand that my business is paying me to go do something fun. Like it's something that we worked hard and now we get to enjoy something from that.
Yeah, as a profitability coach, I have a lot of background in culture, organizational culture. So I always weave that in because I believe it's half the success. It's part of the way you get to good cash flow on that. We're getting close to 10, so I'm just going to kind of whip through these next slides so I can get you out on time. But I'm going to bring up something kind of fun. Well, okay, in your business, is it time for a new car? Pretty nifty car there. So what we're saying is, if you're about to expand your market, if you are about to do a new product line, let's say, you have mergers and acquisitions going on. If anything happens that you're kind of leveling up, guess what? The same thing needs to happen. You need, again, to create a roadmap where you're going and have a business plan. And what I'm mentioning here, I didn't really point this out before, be sure to leverage professional help. It's very, very likely now that just about every business, with how complex it is, needs some kind of professional help, whether it's financial advice, a coach, a culture expert, a human resource, fractional, anything like that. There's a lot of businesses that could use that, and it'll really help get you where you're going. So these are just some tips, and then I'll just whip through these other ones. Be sure these are the, oh my gods, don't do these. If you really don't know who you're marketing to and how your marketing works, you're just wasting your money more than likely. You're just throwing darts all over the board. and it leads to wasted money, missed opportunities for growth without an actual understanding your market. And some of the mistakes would be things like you post on social media, but when we say no clear plan, it's not just what you're going to say. It's just you don't even know who you're talking to. You have to understand who your customer is. Some people think, I'll give you one example. Some people think like the teenager is the person they're attracting, when it turns out it's the parent. Or sometimes they're marketing to the parent and it's really the teen that makes the decision. So you've got to figure out who is, oh, by the way, is it the woman that's making the decision, not the man? I was working with a tree company, and all their marketing materials are kind of fluffy and fun and all that. And I thought, why are they doing that? And then I realized, talking with all these tree services, the woman is so mad at the husband for not cutting, the branches down and all that they hired the tree guy. So it was interesting. You got to know her customer. Distributing flyers or brochures that haven't set you apart. They're just general. It's not going to get you business. Or if you don't optimize your online, like Google account, directories, things like that. And there are a few businesses out there that can rely solely on word of mouth. B&I groups, things like that help a lot. But it's very unusual for businesses to survive just on that. They usually need incentives, offers, innovative methods to promote and obtain referrals. And that's what one of the things coaches do. We do all those things. So if you ever in the market looking for a business coach, here's some of the things that I recommend, because not all coaches have the same background, not all drive real results. So here's what I would recommend to look for. Make sure they have tools and expertise to show you how to unlock more revenue using a really focused plan. Worksheets, frameworks. I have the profitability accelerator, things like that to help you map out things. They need to ask you so many questions to dig into your goals, your challenges, and blind spots. They're usually brutally honest and challenging you because you don't grow or improve otherwise. And they give you homework. So you've got to do the homework, because there's things they're telling you need to understand and analyze about your business. They focus on revenue and profit, not just branding, because remember, branding feeds your ego, but it doesn't feed your family. That's the problem with just branding. They back it up with guarantees. Whether they're fractional, CFOs, or others, there's needs to be a clear path of what you're paying for. And then also hire people if they care about you and your business. You need to win, and they need to be there to help you win. So you'll feel it in how they show up for you. So anyway, you're welcome to schedule a free one-on-one assessment with me to look under and peek under the hood of your business. And I guess we're a little after 10. I don't know if we have time for any other questions, Jason.
Yeah, we absolutely have time for questions. Keep in mind, guys, the time is 9 to 10, but we can always go over, for whoever has time.
Okay, questions, anyone? Make it something I can answer. Don't be too hard. Okay, and any experiences, insights on any of the material today? How about that?
Well, Cindy, I just want to make a comment. I think your presentation was amazing. A lot of great information here that I think a lot of businesses, a person gets a dream. You've got a dream in your head, and I want to start this business, and it's going to be profitable, and I'm going to make this my living. Business plans are such a basic requirement in my mind before you even get started, because just because I dream it doesn't mean it's going to be functional. So it's very important to follow a lot of these steps that you've talked about.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I really loved your presentation, and thank you. It was very useful information, and I look forward to your next time on here.
Okay, great. Thank you. If there's nothing else, I'm going to go ahead and close it. That's my contact information. Thank you. I have really looked forward to every single coffee and conversation, and found value in all the past ones. Many of you have all been presenters, and learned a lot from all of you as well. So it's really an honor to be able to present today, and to be part of such a great group of people that like learning from one another. So thank you.
Cindy, I think you did an amazing job today and just reminding everybody this will be on our YouTube channel. So if you want to refer back to it or send it to someone else who you think needs the information, that will be available to you.
All right. If no one else has anything they would like to add, I just want to let you know of some upcoming events. So we do have April 24th, we have Mix It Up, which is a very informal networking opportunity, kind of around happy hour time, 4:30 to 6:30 at Poorhouse. April 26th, there are a lot of things going on in Hamilton. You can find them on our website. There's Pretzel Fest, Son del Caribe at Fitness Center. There's a local yarn store doing a local yarn store day. Pancake breakfast with the Lindenwald Kiwanis, Art and Earth Day at Pyramid Hill, and then Plants and Pints at Municipal. That's all on April 26th. May 2nd through the 4th, we are celebrating May the 4th in Hamilton. You can find information on downtownhamilton.com. I will be emailing you all of these things after our coffee and conversation. On May 6th, we also have Murder Networking at Colligan Lodge. You don't want to miss this. I don't think there's ever been a networking event quite like this. Followed by May 13th, Coffee and Conversation with Trish Archie, Things I Learned by Building My Food-Based Business. You can check all of this out at www.hamilton-ohio.com. I'm going to send all of this to you guys in an email. Cindy, thank you so much for doing this today and being here. We also have a leadership series part 2 that Cindy's going to be leading on May 20th from 1 to 2. You're going to be talking about, I think this is the one we were talking about trust, correct?
Yes, this is trust.
Yeah. So we had a great turnout for the first part of that series. So you don't want to miss this. This one's going to be on Zoom alone. So we're not going to be doing it in person for this one. So we're going to be getting that online, and we hope you guys can join us. So thank you so much, and everyone have a great day.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.